Thank you all for joining. This will be the presentation regarding contract-based testing. We do it with the three of us. So Omkar, Mandar and I. Let me present myself first. My name is Pieter Geurtse, Senior Test Manager within Society for 3 years now. Around 25 years of experience within testing and currently working for the Rabobank. Please introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Mandar. I'm working as a test automation engineer and almost 15 years of experience in test automation. Currently working with Eneco or the CBT.
Yeah, hi. My name is Omkar. I have total 18 plus years of experience with Sogeti from last 1 year and currently working for Eneco project for contract testing.
Okay, what will happen is I will go to the first few slides. After that, the specialists will take over and will show you the more technical stuff and the demo. As you can see here in the agenda, so brief introduction now, and the short demo at the end. So first of all, I would like to present to you what is CBT about. So where does it stand for and how can you use it? So in general speaking, if you want to explain CBT, this picture always comes along because you see it sometimes in other colors or some other abbreviations, but in general, this is the flow. And how does that work? Because contract-based testing is nothing more than giving more assurance that if you do your testing within your own application, complies to the specifications of your interface. So that's what contract-based testing does. It gives you assurance. So how can you create that assurance? Yes, please.
Step 3, there's some red text, I think.
That is correct. That is red text.
Yeah, it's hard to read.
Okay, I'm not there yet, so I will then explain what it stands for. Thank you. First of all, step 1. We go step by step. So a consumer, that's an application that consumes functionality from the providing system, will test via his own unit tests against the stop. And by doing so, he will create the input that is required to create a contract between the two systems. Now, that contract itself will be created in a tool like Paxflow. To be honest, I think Paxflow is currently the only tool that can be used for all the types of contract-based testing I will explain later. So if that input is in the contract, the providing party can see, okay, these are the specifications I need for this interface. So he will use that information also to create the data in his stubs and the specifications in his stubs. So both of them have now working stubs, so to say. And during their execution of their test automation, they will test it against the stubs, and the stubs themselves automatically validate whether the tests that have been executed are conform the specifications that they agreed upon within a contract. That's more or less what contract-based testing does. And if it seems that the validation itself is not working, then they will say, okay, it breaks, the test fails, and something needs to happen. So the two parties, the consumer and provider, need to come together and see, okay, how can we fix this? And if they do not fix it, they are normally speaking not capable of deploying the software to their master in the pipeline. So it enforces them to come together and see what's the problem. Now, by saying this, we also need to be taken into account a few principles within contract-based testing. First of all, you need to agree that the contract itself is the single source of truth for the interface. So there should be no discussion. Yeah? What's in the contract, that's the way the interface works. And also it needs to have everything that is needed to understand how the interface works. So it can be an open API specification, but it can also be what type of tests you're going to execute. Do you see a question? Oh, sorry. And for both parties. So if you want to know anything about the interface itself, the only thing you need to do is to go to the contract. Because the contract itself is both human and machine readable. So even I will understand what happens in the contract. And I can tell you, I have any knowledge on the technique. Yes, I do have a question now.
Question, and then so software like Backflow, does it sort of, how does this contract come to be? Does it draw both the software basically? Is it just does it read from it? I mean, you have to manually input and create.
The good thing is that will be shown at the demo. So, but it's good that you asked. Thank you. So, yeah, this is in general speaking the story regarding CBT. Now, what you always have as well is there are 3 types of contract-based testing. The first type will be the consumer-driven contract-based testing. So the word itself is already saying it. It is based on what the consumer needs for his tests. So it only needs, regarding the interface, that part of the interface that the consumer is needing. So not the full interface. Yeah? So in that way, it's as little as possible and also very efficient. So for every consumer, there will be an additional contract, and that's also the pitfall, so to say, because then it can be the case that from all those consumers, the provider will get redundant tests or even contradicting tests and so on. So that's a risk. However, on the other hand, you have provider-driven contracts. And provider-driven contracts will state most of the time those are big applications, say like Siebel, that has a big interface, and from a technical perspective, it provides the full technical interface towards the consumers and says, this is my interface, and you can use it with a contract, and good luck. So it's more going towards a technical specifications. And with consumer contracts, you can also put functional specifications in the contract. So from that perspective, provider-driven is not the way to go. However, you also have bidirectional, and then both parties really come together and agree upon, okay, how can we in an optimal way try to test this application? And they can also publish their own specs. They can even use their own tools. And that makes it very easy also to scale bidirectional. And I already came back to Backflow. Backflow is the only tool who supports bidirectional contract testing. Now, this is more or less the generic story I wanted to tell. So I'll hand over now my thingy to the next presenter, and thank you all.
Thank you, Peter. Yeah. So we know that test pyramid. So we will see that CBT. So this is the new level, that is a contract testing. It's related with the integration and unit part. So after the unit, we will analyze the contract testing. So here you can see the arrows. The cost goes increase once your unit, the level of testing got increase. So if you find, or if you start the testing at early stage, it will be a very helpful to find debug at early stage. So by doing this, you will maintain the quality also. And this is nothing but a transition to the shift left in today's agile world.
Yeah, so why we need CBT? Okay, so the basically in the old, like we used to have a monolithic where all those components used to be work together. We used to have all the functionalities working together, and we will complete the development. We'll have integration testing. As we move to agile world where we have more microservices based architecture, what happens is we first complete the unit testing, as Mandar explained, for the microservices. Then we have to wait for each microservice to complete the development. Once that is done, we can go for integration testing. Now, with the help of when we have this contract-based testing, during the development phase itself, we can connect to the pact and we can create the contract. And basically, during the development phase itself, the contracts are created and the testing will continue. So how it helps is like when you go for integration testing, the defects will be reduced. So it's, as we have discussed, it's a shift left approach. So we are moving one step on the left side where we are during development phase itself, we are doing the testing. So that helps to reduce the defects in the later stages. So that's the reason CBT is being introduced, and it is helpful. Yeah, Mandar, next one.
Yeah, so as you can see, currently these are the language supported our pact. So mostly we know that the .NET, Java-based architecture are widely used. So these are the languages, and trust me, it's an ongoing process. And if you see the community support is growing and active.
Yeah, so there are different applications which are supported. So again, it doesn't support all the applications. Still, its development is going on, but it mainly supports like the event-based architectures, or we have like that's AWS, Azure. So cloud-based architectures, we have AWS Lambda, Azure Functions. So this is trying to support many applications, like IoT is also being supported. So this is like it's in development phase. So as we progress ahead, more and more applications will be supported, and we can do contract testing for them. Yeah. So in the pact, if you see like so whatever we have discussed, so for consumer-based testing, there are mainly 3 tools which are currently being used. One is the pact, which is open source, and what it does is that it will help you to create the contract. The pact broker is actually act as a broker, or it act as a mediator between 2 entities, and it will help you to get the pact shared between 2 entities, between provider and consumer. Again, it's an open source tool. But the PactFlow is a managed version of it, and it's not, unfortunately, it's not open source, but provides nice features. So during the demo, we'll see how what are the different features of PactFlow, and it's basically a GUI of Pact Broker. So it's advanced version of Pact Broker, you can say. Yeah. Mandar, next.
Yeah, guys, before jumping to the technical part,
The 3 tools that you show, are they the same tools or just different versions, or they are totally different tools?
They are different tools. Like
So-
Pact is different.
Yeah, but you said that PactFlow is the upgraded version of Pact Broker.
Yes. It's a GUI based, like it is being used by a company, and then they have added features on that.
Okay, so
So-
they are used for different, like they are different tools but can be used.
No, they are totally different tools. So you don't have to use both. You can use either PactFlow or you can use Pact Broker.
And both support contract-based testing, the
Yes.
basic at least.
Yes, they both act as a mediator or broker.
Okay, thank you.
The PactFlow tooling is mainly used for it's mainly used for enterprise purposes. So Pact Broker is something which you can run locally on your own machine and in small applications. But if you scale in larger organizations, most of our clients at SOHD, they will go for the Pact Flow because that's a software as a service. So that's cloud based.
Yeah, so before jumping into the technical demo, let's understand the example. This is nothing but architecture of the use case of e-learning project, where we can see the customer as a front end and the product prices. He's accessing requesting the product prices, where the product prices are coming for microservice of consumer. This is library, and another one is module is of course that will act as a provider. So here you can see the arrows, the course prices are coming from course microservices and the book prices are from library microservices. So let's see where we can apply the CBT over here, or how the CBT will help you for further testing. So yeah, but we will let you know how the simple way of implementing or executing or how to implement CBT in five simple steps. First, we will show you where and how to configure the setup or project. Then consumer test cases at the pack side. Third one is the publishing the pack, and the fourth one is provider pack test, and the fifth one is the verification. So in verification, we will see positive and negative scenario.
Yeah.
So let's see.
Now I'll just show you the actual demo. Okay. So I won't go in much details into the code because I don't want it to.
Yeah, guys, don't worry about this code.
Yeah.
So this is the already implemented part. We have to implement the pack over here. That is nothing but one library. We will add in a form.xml file.
Yeah. So this Spring Boot REST service which you see, it's a consumer and Courses is a provider. So whatever you have seen in the previous diagram, so it's basically we have these are Spring Boot projects, and what we have done is in the pom.xml file. So in this file we have added few features, details about to implement the pack basically, and in this, and it has to be done for both a provider as well as consumer. And when we see the consumer, now this is a unit test case basically, so which has been modified to support the pack. So there are few, this is a unit test case based on JUnit 5, and what we are doing here is we are adding few.
One moment, the screen seems to be. That's okay.
What happened suddenly? It's okay. It has to. Strange.
There we go.
Yeah, it's working.
Okay. Fine. So, okay. So we have added few annotations to support the pack bed testing, and this is basically now we are mocking the behavior of the provider here. So we are not directly connecting with the provider, but this is all mocking of that. And we have written 3 unit test cases here, and we are checking whether the expected response we are getting or not. Now again, I won't go much details into that now because of the time constraint. So what I will do is I'll show how actually the pact works. So,
yeah. So we have covered 2 steps. First step, the configured. Now this one is the pact at consumer side. And now third step, that running and publishing the pact.
So once we execute this, so these are just unit test cases based in Spring Boot. And once this is being so a folder called packs get created, which is nothing but which actually shows the pact between the consumer and provider. And that has happened because we have configured the pact. And if we go, this is a JSON file, and I won't, again, it captures the schema, or what is expected from the provider. So consumer, this price, if you see, it captures its integer type, it has to be. So it's basically an API response, and the API response, it expects the price to be an integer. So this captures all these details in the JSON. So we don't have to write it ourselves, but this get captured. Now, whatever we have captured, now this, I will come to the pack flow now. So this is by SmartBeer, and this is what we have to go to pack flow. This is, we can create our own account, and for our practice, it's free. You can always go and you can configure yourself. And then there are different options available here, like this API tokens and all. These are really useful for configuration purpose. And other than that, there are many features in this. So we are currently using these tokens, and I'll show you how the pack gets published over here. So now we have created the pack. What we will do is we will run this Maven project, and we will publish this pack onto the pack flow. And once it is published, we'll get an OK message. If we go here, if we refresh pack flow, we can see there is a pack being added over here, but it is in unverified status. And then we have a network diagram, which again shows that how these both are connected to each other. And then there will be other details. Yeah. So the next step is, once the pact is established, we have to run the provider test. Now there is another unit test case which has to be written in provider side, where we have mentioned about the pack details, and we are verifying the provider side. We are testing it whether whatever the pact created, whether it provider is adhering to that. So again,
Clarifying question, you're not testing the provider code against sorry about that.
I'm not sure if I need this.
Yeah.
So currently you're testing the provider against the
pact.
The pact, yeah,
Yes.
which has been created from the consumer.
Yes,
Based
yes.
on the consumer input and a mock-up.
Yes, true.
Okay.
And it will check the schema part of it. It won't check the actual values of it. So that is the important thing to note here. So
Yeah, so this is nothing but fourth step.
So I will run this one. Again, that unit test cases will run, and
So provider is doing his unit test cases.
yeah. And then if we refresh this, it will show us that it's being successful. That means there is the contract has been created by a consumer, provider adheres to that contract. Now the last part of this is about the actual how it will be useful. So for example, now if tomorrow the provider decides that, okay, I want to make a change from their side, and he doesn't want to inform this basically. So he will make the changes, and these changes are not being communicated to consumer. So suppose he decide that, okay, I want to change the price from integer to string, and he makes a change in his code. So I'm making a change from provider side and making it as a string now. So what I'm trying to show it how useful this contract-based testing is. So it's kind of a negative scenario, you can say. So we have modified it. Now from provider side, we are provider has changed the details, and he's expecting that all the values to be a string. So now provider has not informed consumer that I am making this price I'm changing it from integer to string. But if you see in this JSON, we have already recorded that it has to be an integer. So if you see here, the price is recorded as an integer in the contract. So provider is supposed to adhere to this, but now he has changed it to string. But let's see. So once you now he will try to run this unit test case before deploying it to the higher environment. So whenever they want to deploy the code to higher environment, it is mandatory for them to run this pack test to make sure that everything is fine from their end. So as they have changed it, and now they are checking it with the pack, which says that this has to be an integer, but if you see, this is saying that it's a string, and all the unit test cases are failed. And if you see here as well in the pack, if I refresh this, it will say that it's failed. So because of this, it doesn't allow the provider to deploy this into production. And we can, as we have discussed, that shift left, like we are, before the actual integration test, we are catching it. Now we have given a simple example of changing this, but there are other, you can make it more complex, we can have more fields, and then multiple things can be done in this, so that all these things can be captured before you go for integration test. During the unit test itself, you can catch it. And this is between two entities. You can have multiple entities, multiple providers, multiple consumers, so it can be made more complex. So for demo purpose, we have kept it as simple. Yeah, that's all from the demo perspective, and we'll go back to the slides now.
So you generated the contract using unit test. You added some notation in the unit test and generated a contract.
Right.
Is there any other way to generate the contract other than unit test?
Then yeah, it's possible. But now, as we told, like we have configured it using pack. There may be other options possible also. Like there may be other way of
it?
No, I'm not aware. I have to look into it.
Thanks.
Yeah, as far as I understand, you can also generate it from the OpenAPI specification. So that can also be a starting point. I saw a hand somewhere, oh, even two.
Okay, so in the right now what we did was we generated the contract. It captured all the fields that was required by the consumer. Now, for example, the provider has many more fields other than what the consumer is consuming, and that is not in the contract.
Right.
Right. So now what happens when the provider changes one of those fields which is not utilized by the consumer? Will that pass the contract?
Yes, it should, because the contract only contains the fields which the consumer is using. And going forward, like if there are multiple consumers are using multiple fields of the provider, then the contract whatever the fields that contract others to, only those that will fail. Yes. Yes, that's yes. Yeah. But again, you have to make, as I know, we have to make one-to-one contract. One provider, one consumer, there should be one contract. Then another consumer, another contract, and then that will mention all those fields, whatever.
How does CBT fit into Agile world? And following up, when the results are published, when the results are captured, how is it being integrated with Agile tools like Jira? Are there any components or the interfaces?
So,
for you are saying about Jira related stuff.
First question is, how does CBT fit into Agile?
Yeah, it's a part of, if you are doing unit or you are doing the integration. So we are moving to the shift left. So this is the, we can say the future, where you will capture the bugs or this thing stuff is early stage. So it's fit into Agile itself, I guess.
So it is between unit test and integration.
Integration.
Test. So this slides explains that. So once you complete the unit test, like before you deploy, for example, if you want to give it to testers for testing, before deploying, you run the unit test case related to that, and then you can give it to the. So you can put it into pipeline, CI/CD pipeline, and where you can. It's similar to the way we testers, right? Before deploying it to the higher environment, we have that CI/CD pipeline. We integrate that. Similarly, you can integrate it over there.
Yeah, the configuration remains same of your deployment process, like CI/CD, and where you capture and you are sharing the reports with your teams or within the or stakeholders or clients. So that process will same. Only the thing is that you are checking it at early stage.
Can you integrate the pack results to the Jira tools?
Yeah, that's possible. That's possible.
Is it mostly done by the developers?
The question was, is it mostly done by developers? We work nowadays agile, so everything is a team effort. But that is the case. We have. Okay, can you present the last slide? So, no, the one before.
This one?
No. Well,
I was on the last
preview.
Okay. So what did we learn today? CBT can help us, as I stated earlier, in ensuring that testing of interfaces will work as agreed between parties. So on a very early stage, so that's very helpful. We learned where we can place CBT, so in which in the test pyramid, so to say. And of course, the test pyramid itself shows the effort of testing, but within agile working, we do a lot in parallel, so be aware of that as well. And in what way, what does CBT support and what doesn't it support? Because that's also, you see a lot of those issues that management thinks CBT is the silver bullet for all testing. That is not the case. It's only for ensuring that interfaces work. You can do some functional testing, but I would say please go shift left, do it in the unit and component tests. And what we saw, of course, by the demo is the first steps of making a contract by using Pactflow. Now, we had already some questions. Do we have some final questions perhaps in the audience? Of course.
We use SonarQube for to keep an eye on the state of the projects. Is there interface between SonarQube and this kind of tests? Because after all, they run in unit test scope.
I can answer that. SonarQube is more for checking on code coverage and stuff like that. So from that perspective, it helps each other, but it's not integrated with each other. So they have different purposes, so to say. Yeah? Oh.
Yeah, how does this compare to a tool like Postman that also has contract-based testing or schema validations?
It does. However, Pactflow itself is the only one who does bidirectional testing. Bidirectional testing. And we foresee, so to say, that that will be the future. Yeah. So in that case, currently Pactflow is the only tool that can do that.
Because I think the Postman doesn't support contracts.
No, it does do. No, not in contracts, but it does do validations.
Yeah.
No.
One of the big advantages, in my opinion, for this, and that was also what Omkar was showing. You have to make a contract from one end of the line, and then the other party can validate their interface against that contract. So you're not building your integration test or your API test on assumptions, but you're building it on agreed contracts. And that's a big difference for the whole approach, and it's more the CBT mindset that you use in it. And of course, you could do something like that with tools like Postman, but then you have to arrange that in your organization yourself, and it's not enforced by the tools in that sense.
Okay, if that was the last question, then I would say thanks for your attendance, and Rudy.
Yes, may I take over? So, Omkar, thanks for your presentation. Also, Mandar, thanks, and Peter, thanks. Give them a warm applause. I think you made a very complex topic clear to most of us. Probably you have a lot of questions, and I'm sure we can reach out to you. Do we?
Yeah.
So I think for process questions, Peter, probably Wouter, we can reach out to you, and for the pack flow questions, we can reach out to Oomkar and Mandar. Sure. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate that you stand over here. Thanks for that. So that means that you have 10 minutes to go to the next room for the next session. That means you don't have to hurry. You can go to the toilet, you can take a drink or whatever you want. But please be in time for the next session that we can start again. In this room, Jeroen Egelmeer will present about prompt engineering. It's very interesting if you want to use GenAI. So feel welcome to stay, but also feel welcome to join another session or take some drinks in the meantime. Thanks for attending.